You probably think the worst thing I did was lie about it afterward. But the lie was almost nothing. What I did before that, on a Tuesday afternoon in March, with nobody watching and a mouse click that took less than a second, that's what I can't put down. My name is Diane. I've been in HR administration for 11 years. I know how the systems work. I know where things live, which folders get audited and which ones don't, and I know exactly how many steps it takes to remove a document so thoroughly that nobody goes looking for it. Kira had been at the company for about 3 years when she filed for intermittent medical leave. She came to me directly, which is protocol, and we sat across from each other at my desk, and she told me about her diagnosis. I'm not going to say what it was. That's hers. But it was real, it was documented, and her doctor had already submitted the paperwork. Everything was in order. My job was to log it, route it to her manager, and file the certification. I did 3 of those 4 things. Here's what you need to understand about Kira. She was not someone I disliked. That's the part that keeps me up at night, honestly, because if I had disliked her, if there had been something bitter between us, I think I could at least explain myself. But there wasn't. She was warm. She brought food in on Fridays sometimes, little pastries from the bakery near her apartment. She asked about my mother once, months after I'd mentioned her in passing, and I remember thinking at the time that she was the kind of person who actually listens. But there was a promotion cycle opening up that spring, a senior analyst position, and there were 2 names everyone kept saying together in the same breath, Kira's and mine. I had been waiting for that role for 2 years. 2 years of covering for team gaps, of staying late, of writing the reports that other people put their names on. My manager, Garrett, had told me, not implied, told me that I was the front-runner. And then Kira filed her leave paperwork, and something in my brain did a calculation so fast I didn't even feel it happen. Intermittent leave means unpredictable absence. Unpredictable absence looks like unreliability. And a senior analyst role needs someone dependable. That's the word Garrett used in the all hands, dependable, and I thought, just for a second, just 1 second, what if the certification just wasn't there? 1 second was all it took. I deleted the routing notification first. That was the one that would have pinged Garrett. Without it, the certification sat in a holding folder, technically present, practically invisible. Then I deleted the follow-up reminder the system was scheduled to send Kira at the 30-day mark. And then I went and got a coffee from the break room, and I stood there by the window, and I watched the parking lot for about 4 minutes, and I felt nothing. That's the truest thing I can tell you. In that moment, I felt nothing. The feeling came later. Kira took 2 of her approved leave days in April, unaware that those days weren't actually logged against an active certification anymore. Her manager flagged the absences as unexcused. Garrett pulled me into his office and asked me to look into it. And I sat across from him, and I looked at the screen he turned toward me, and I said I wasn't sure what happened, but I'd look into it. I looked into it for 3 weeks. I stalled. I rerouted questions. I told Kira, when she came to me confused and starting to panic, that there might have been a system error and I was escalating it. She believed me. She sat in my office and she believed me, and her hands were shaking a little because the HR violation notice she'd received had language about potential termination. And she had a lease and a mother she was helping support, and she looked at me. She looked directly at me and said, "Diane, I filed everything right. You were there." "You know I did." And I said, "I know, I'm going to figure this out." I got the promotion in May. Garrett shook my hand. There was a little gathering in the conference room with a cake from the grocery store down the street, and Kira was there, still waiting on resolution of her case, still showing up every day, and she smiled at me from across the room. She actually smiled. The case eventually got resolved. Someone in compliance pulled the original doctor's submission from the external portal, which I hadn't thought to touch, and Kira's leave was retroactively reinstated. The violation was dropped. Nobody ever traced the gap in the internal records to me because the system assumed human error, and HR systems always assume human error before they assume intent. I told myself it had worked out. I told myself she was fine, the outcome was fine, nobody got fired. But Kira had spent 6 weeks believing she might lose her job. 6 weeks managing a diagnosis and a legal threat simultaneously, while I sat 20 feet away and watched her walk to the printer and back, and I knew the whole time. I knew the whole time, and I made myself coffee, and I wrote my budget projections for the senior analyst role, and I went home and slept. She still brings pastries in on Fridays. She doesn't know. I don't know if that makes it better or worse, that she's fine now, that she's intact, that the damage I was willing to cause just happened not to land the way I intended. I keep thinking about intent, about whether what I was willing to do is different from what I did, whether the outcome changes the thing itself. I don't think it does, but I don't know how to sit with that and keep showing up. So I just keep showing up anyway, and I don't take the pastries anymore, and I tell myself that means something. It probably doesn't. The outcome was fine. She's fine. I keep saying that. I don't know who I'm trying to convince anymore. What would you have done if you'd already clicked, and the second had already passed, and she was already sitting across from you, trusting you? What would you have done then? Tell me in the comments.